Okay, we're in Matthew chapter 8, and the narrative has us in Capernaum at Peter's house. Jesus finds Peter's mother-in-law is sick with a fever, and he touches her, and she's healed. She gets up and waits on him. The house then, I think, begins to, or at least the outside of the house, begins to fill with people. And not the kind of people that you would have a party with. And I mean, that sounds awful, but it's true. These people were demon possessed. They were ill, sick. Jesus heals them all, casts out the demons. And when I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking this is Jesus's response to people's needs, and it is, but it's more than that. Matthew writes in what we have as verse 17, this was to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet Isaiah. He took up our infirmities and carried our diseases. I said it before, but notice the many times that Matthew writes about the fulfillment of prophecy. Okay, so then I don't know how much time passes. I don't know exactly where where this took place, but we talked about it last time. A teacher of the law came to him and said, this is in verse 19, teacher, I will follow you wherever you go. That's a great sentiment. It's not a boast, I don't think. I think it's just an expression of what he was feeling and maybe thinking. And Jesus then says, foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. Oh, I'm just doing a quick review here, but I think what Jesus is saying is, if you're going to follow me, we're not going to be at the Four Seasons Hotel. We're not even probably going to be at the Good Sam Campground, KOA. He said, I don't have a place. And then another disciple says, Lord, first let me bury my father. Well, the implication is he also wanted to follow Jesus, but he said, I got this, I got to do. And Jesus makes a pretty piercing, pointed statement. Follow me and let the dead bury their own dead. Now, this is a metaphorical statement. The literal dead cannot bury the literal dead. I think what he's saying is there are people who are spiritually dead. Then you kind of have to say goodbye to them. That's harsh. When I think of trying to contextualize what Jesus said here in my life and experience today, man, I don't, there's probably a church out there where the pastor somewhere out there says, hey, let the dead bury the dead. Get over it. You can't hang on. That's just how it is. I've never heard that. And Matthew makes no more commentary about this. Jesus doesn't explain himself. In verse 23, then he got in a boat and his disciples followed him. Now that's interesting. whose boat? Well, let's see. I don't think it says. I'm guessing it was either Peter and Andrew's boat or James and John's boat. I'm going to go with Peter because it was kind of within its relative context. He was the last one mentioned, and he was a fisherman. So, but Jesus gets in the boat, and then his disciples follow him. Now, number one, it's not a rowboat. You're not going to get Jesus and 12 followers into a tiny boat. It wasn't a yacht, but it was a fair-sized boat. It had to be. And then verse 24, without warning, a furious storm came up on the lake, so that the waves swept over the boat. Commentators of this passage and scholars, biblical scholars, tell us that the Sea of Galilee was notorious for these ambush kinds of storms. There's no warning, and whew, next thing you know, you got a tempest on your hands. And that's evidently what happened. While this was happening, Jesus, this is very interesting, Jesus was sleeping. Okay, big direct allegory here, or at least correspondence. It feels to me like the struggle I'm in, the junk I'm having to go through is truly, I mean, I don't know if we're going to survive this. Jesus isn't troubled by it. In verse 25, the disciples went and woke him up, saying, Lord, save us, we're going to drown. I would have been right there. I might have been the first guy to start shaking him. In verse 26, he replied, you of little faith, why are you so afraid? Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the waves, and it was completely calm. Okay. I think it would be possible to make too much of this, but I think Matthew included this because the Holy Spirit somehow told him to include it in this biography of Jesus. He calls them, he says, you of little faith. Well, that's me. Maybe not you, but that's me. Why was I afraid? I mean, well, let's ask this question. Had the disciples seen Jesus calm a storm yet? Well, not in the narrative that we've gone through so far. So it's not like, hey, I've done it before, come on. It's like, you've got to have faith. See, faith, how do I want to say this? If it's a done deal, if you don't need faith for something that's already happened, you need faith for what has not yet happened. And this is where I get into a struggle. So my faith has to be based on something. It just does, okay? The biblical definition of faith is in Hebrews 11:1. It's confidence in things not seen, and confidence in things hoped for. Then evidence of, okay, so my faith, I suppose there are times when it just has to be blind, but I think generally that kind of faith has evidence, and the evidence is previous experience. Well, now the disciples had previous experience with Jesus in terms of not calming storms, but I mean, I don't know that it was the night before this but it wasn't that long ago that they had watched potentially hundreds of people being healed. And okay, some of the healings might have been, okay, you didn't, this was not like like the blind guy. You knew he was blind and now he can see. But I think the people they had watched, they knew that Jesus had miraculously healed them. So they had a little bit of evidence there that, well, at the very least, Jesus had power. Okay, now, so when he says, "Oh, you have little faith," in a way, that's a little bit of rebuke. But I'm not sure Jesus, well, he did not say, if you just had a little more faith. No. Okay. But the question is, why are you so afraid? I get that. I've shared with you before that I struggle with anxiety, and anxiety is fear. It has a variety of different levels and different expressions and different associated feelings. Everybody doesn't go through it in the same way. We all have fear. If somebody doesn't have fear from time to time, something's not right with them. And really, fear is both a gift and a curse. It's a gift in the sense that if you weren't afraid, you're going to live a short life. If you were incapable of fear, you're going to die early. On the other side, that's fear is a gift to keep us alive. But on the other side, the curse is fear dominates. It will keep us from a whole lot of things. First of all, from our own development as people. It will keep us from seizing opportunity. Fear, in the gift sense, fear makes us evaluate our situation. But in the curse sense, it always says, run, 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 run. I think I have it figured out in terms of that's how fear works, but getting rid of fear, I haven't gotten that one figured out yet. So let me just ask, this is not about an accusation. It's just, I think, a legitimate question. What are you afraid of? Why are you so afraid? Well, Jesus' words. I suppose that question is appropriate to us. At this point in my life, there's, a few fundamental things that I'm afraid of, that I fear. One is that my kids and grandkids will not be okay. I don't like that fear. The other is that Debbie will not be okay, that my health will fail and I won't be okay. Then I won't be able to provide. There won't be enough finances. There, on and on and on it goes like that. It's kind of like once you get the fear wheel spinning, it really takes an energy of its own. I'm trying to give those fears up to him. I'm trying to look at what he's already done in my life and draw courage, faith from that. Maybe you need to do that too. pick it back up here next time on So Care with Stevie Boy.